Hey guys, this is your host Thomas Tyree here from On the Hot Podcast. Today, this could be the Combat Series episode number 131 for you guys today. And to start off the Combat Series this week, I'll be sharing my fight prediction for this weekend's fight taking place in the sport of boxing between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua. So, we will see Jake Paul compete in a professional heavyweight fight for the second time in his boxing career, taking on Anthony Joshua. Now, this professional fight will be a 3-minute, 8-round fight that will take place Friday on Netflix in the sport of boxing. So these are the following storylines that I have heading into this professional fight between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua. Storyline number one is, has Jake Paul lost his damn mind? Now, if you go back to August, late summer, where Jake Paul was scheduled to have an exhibition against WBA lightweight champion Gervonta Davis, those plans did not plan out the way that we thought they would have. The fight got canceled, called off due to Gervonta Davis being in legal trouble with women outside of the ring, and Jake Paul needed a new dance partner. So you fast forward to the end of November, and we get the news that Jake Paul has decided to fight Anthony Joshua in a professional heavyweight fight. Now, the last time we seen Jake Paul compete in a heavyweight fight was against a 60-year-old Mike Tyson, over-the-hedge Mike Tyson, and was dealing with some medical issues in the calendar year 2024. Unfortunately, nearly lost his life. So now you were scheduled to have an exhibition against a lightweight champion Gervonta Davis, where you would have had nearly a 100-pound weight difference or weight advantage heading into that fight. Now you're fighting Anthony Joshua, an active heavyweight, former Olympic gold medalist, former unified heavyweight champion, one of the greatest heavyweights of this generation, in a professional fight. That is insane. You can't make this stuff up, what Jake Paul is doing. You got to give him his credit as a promoter. The show must go on, so you get the next biggest shark in the ocean to have a big professional fight against. So we're going to see if he knows something that we don't, or he has just lost his mind, there to entertain the fans, get a big payday, and get knocked out within 1 to 3 rounds. The next storyline is, will the rehydration clause affect Anthony Joshua? Now, there is a rehydration clause for people that don't know. Anthony Joshua has to weigh in no more than 245 pounds for this fight. That is the rehydration clause that Jake Paul put in the contract for Anthony Joshua. He cannot weigh more than 245 pounds. I think the other rules is, we already went over the rounds, and the gloves, they'll be wearing 10-ounce gloves. So with Anthony Joshua taking this fight on a month's notice, will the rehydration clause be an effective thing for Anthony Joshua as he's making weight and finishing up his training camp now that we're less than 7 days away from this fight? Again, can only weigh 245 pounds, less than 245 pounds, heading into this fight with Jake Paul. So we'll see if that plays a difference in this fight. But enough of the storylines. Let's get to the tail of the tape here. My tail of the tape for the fight is Anthony Joshua. He has 28 victories, 4 losses in his professional boxing career. Has 25 victories come away of knockout. Stands at 6'6" with a 82-inch reach advantage. And then you have Jake Paul in his professional boxing career. He's 12 wins, 1 loss to his boxing career. 7 victories come away of knockout. Stands at 6'1" with a reach of 76 inches. So the height and the reach goes heavily in favor of Anthony Joshua against Jake Paul in this professional boxing fight that we'll see next Friday. But these are the following game plans that I have for these heavyweight fighters to follow if they want to walk out of Miami, Florida with a victory intact. Starting off with the problem child, Jake Paul. I think Jake Paul's got to land the overhand right in this fight. Now, Jake Paul, he's starting to grow as a professional fighter. Maybe not the way that people would have thought wise as he started this off back in 2018, 2019. He's starting to come a long way if you actually pay attention to his arsenal and his toolbox in the ring. Now, it might not be against the best fighters, but he is growing little by little with his boxing skills. He has a pretty good overhand right shot, and he's pretty strong. I mean, he's knocked out and knocked down opponents with that overhand right shot. And Anthony Joshua is pretty chinny, guys, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. He's not bulletproof. He's lost 4 professional fights, and he's been knocked down and been knocked out, and got knocked out by Daniel Dubois in his last professional fight. So it's not impossible to think that Jake Paul has a puncher's chance to knock down Anthony Joshua in this fight. A knockout, it would be insane. But it's not impossible to think this overhand right could possibly give Anthony Joshua problems in that boxing ring. And if the perfect shot can land, it could possibly cause damage to Anthony Joshua. It possibly could help Jake Paul gain confidence and gain momentum as the fight goes on. So we'll see if that overhand right shot can be effective against Anthony Joshua. Next, Jake Paul's got to be alert defensively. He's got to clinch. If you're Jake Paul and you're in trouble, you're fighting Anthony Joshua, someone that has had 25 knockout victories in his professional boxing career. If you're in trouble, clinch if needed. Clinch if needed if you're in trouble. At times, he kind of leaves his hands down when he's throwing punches, which you cannot do against someone that's been around the block and had the success that Anthony Joshua's had in his professional boxing career. So his hands got to be up when he's throwing punches. Can't leave his hands down, because if Anthony Joshua wins the counter-punching battle in that type of scenario, Jake Paul is going to sleep or going to be knocked down for the first time in his professional boxing career. So he's got to be alert, and Anthony Joshua will take advantage of that if Jake Paul leaves his hands down several times in that boxing ring. And last but not least, win the counter-punching battle. That's a tall task that I just said for Jake Paul to do, but he could be faster somewhat than Anthony Joshua, being the smaller fighter, and the fact that Jake Paul put that rehydration clause that Anthony Joshua can weigh no more than 245 pounds in that boxing ring. So Jake Paul is actually decent in the inside. I mean, he's got a stiff jab. I've seen that against Julio Chavez Jr. when he had his last fight in the summer, fighting a former world champion way past his prime. But he's got a pretty significant stiff jab to keep his opponents off of him. I've seen that over the years. He can land shots to the body, slow down Anthony Joshua, and land some uppercuts on the inside. He's got a mean uppercut that he's been developing over the years too. So I like what Jake Paul has done. I mean, he's really prepared for this fight. And when he was preparing for Gervonta Davis, he brought in some of the best lightweights that the sport had to offer, or the best 130-pound fighters like Ray Ford, Shakur Stevenson, etc. And he's been training hard, training with heavyweights. He's been getting black eyes. His nose has been shuffled around a few times. Like, he's taking this serious. So I think there's the following game plans for him to follow if he wants to have a chance to do the impossible and defeat Anthony Joshua this Friday in the sport of boxing. As for Anthony Joshua, the game plans: set up feints and traps for Jake Paul. Now, again, he's had success everywhere. He's been around the block for a long time, and he has a huge advantage in terms of the experience over Jake Paul. Jake Paul has only had 12 professional fights, and realistically, he's only been in the ring with probably 3 to 4 real professional boxers. So the huge advantage goes to Anthony Joshua, and I think the advantage should come in for you setting up feints and setting up traps to have Jake Paul fall for tricks in this fight. Now, bait him in with some feints, and then you could go into the inside, landing 1-2 power shots mixed with the left hook that Anthony Joshua has found success with over and over again in his boxing career. The left hook shot is actually like his bread and butter in the boxing ring. So I think that Anthony Joshua should exploit that, set up feints and traps for a way less experienced Jake Paul in that boxing ring. Next, make it a phone booth fight. Now, obviously, we all want the early Christmas gift to see Jake Paul get knocked out. But if you make it a phone booth fight, if you're Anthony Joshua, the power is making Jake Paul quit with landing the power shots in the inside. Landing the power shots to the body will slow down Jake Paul and really question what he's supposed to do to have a chance to win the fight against Anthony Joshua. Slow him down with the power shots in the inside and land the right hook. I think, I can imagine so many scenarios that Anthony Joshua could perfectly set up Jake Paul with if he follows these game plans. But last but not least, get the job done. Don't make it cute. Don't make it flashy. Just get in there and get out. Because there could be some good paydays for Anthony Joshua later on in the calendar year 2026. So don't play around with your food. Just make it quick and easy, and give us a early Christmas gift for those that want to see Jake Paul get knocked out. And give Jake Paul the Francis Ngannou treatment. Remember when Francis Ngannou shocked the world in his boxing career and dropped Tyson Fury, the Gypsy King, in the 3rd round? And realistically should have probably won that fight against Tyson Fury back in late 2023. You seen what Anthony Joshua did when he got in the ring with him months later, got rid of him within 2 rounds. So I think Anthony Joshua, don't make it cute. Just get in there, get out, be alert defensively, avoid the big shots. And we've seen Anthony Joshua dropped by Andy Ruiz years ago. We've seen him getting dropped by Daniel Dubois and get knocked out in his last professional fight. So get in there, get out, be alert defensively, be on your A game, be on your P's and Q's, because you don't know what Jake Paul could have in store. So those are the following game plans that I have for both fighters to follow if they want to walk out of Miami with this victory intact in this heavyweight fight. But with that being said, I'm going to go with Anthony Joshua to knock out Jake Paul. Now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if this fight lasts longer than 3 rounds, it's fake and it's scripted. And I think Jake Paul should be getting in legal trouble for hoaxing another boxing professional fight with another big heavyweight if this goes 3 rounds, because there's no way that Anthony Joshua should let Jake Paul hang around longer than 3 rounds. I mean, other than Jake Paul having a lucky puncher's chance, there's no clear path to victory. You mean to tell me that Jake Paul in his 13th professional fight has a chance to outpoint Anthony Joshua, that's a former Olympic gold medalist, a former unified heavyweight champion, been around the block and fought some of the best heavyweights of this era of heavyweight boxing? There's no way. So I think Anthony Joshua has a huge advantage and experience, and he should use that against Jake Paul. I think he's going to outbox Jake Paul and land the power shots to the body, the hook shots to slow down Jake Paul, establish the power, win the counter-punching battle. And I expect Jake Paul to clinch and to run around the boxing ring as long as he can to avoid the big shots. But once those big shots land, Anthony Joshua is going to get Jake Paul out of there. I think he's going to give him a similar treatment to what he gave Francis Ngannou a few years ago, when Francis Ngannou was feeling himself because he dropped Tyson Fury and arguably could have defeated him back in late 2023. I just don't see Jake Paul hanging around longer than 2 to 3 rounds. And if he does, it's scripted. But give me Anthony Joshua to give us an early Christmas gift to knock out Jake Paul this weekend in the sport of boxing. That's my fight prediction between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua.